Brian Carroll here, powerxstrength.com. Today I'm going over another frequently asked question, and that is, what do I think about the knees over toes back protocol and his interview on the Mark Bell Powercast? Well, first I'd like to say the guy seems like he has a really good heart. He seems like a nice dude, a genuinely good dude. And I think that a lot of his knee and even some of his hip stuff that I've seen, dragging the sled backwards and such, great for people. The problem comes when he says what he said on Mark Bell's podcast, saying that I don't think we know very much about the back, is what he alluded to. That it's not been discovered how the back should be trained, and we don't quite understand that. I disagree on that a whole bunch. And the fact that he told the guy on the podcast, I think his name's Andrew, that he needed to spend some time with him and make him more flexible and do some Jefferson curls and mobilize this guy's disc bulges. I wholeheartedly disagree with that. And I hope that Andrew didn't do that. And if he did, that he didn't hurt too bad, because that's exactly what Dr. McGill, who assessed Andrew virtually, said not to do. So again, I would listen to Dr. McGill over the knees over toes guy, and I'm living proof that I listen to Dr. McGill. So anyway, that's just a little bit of anecdote there. My thoughts on people doing Jefferson curls is this. To fix your back is absolutely not what I would do. Now, it depends on your pain generators and your mechanisms and what your goal is. Now, someone that's healthy, that is just trying to mobilize their back like a gymnast or a ballerina or a dancer or something like that, that's not the exercise I would pick. That's not the tool I would pick for that end goal. But okay, I'm kind of indifferent about it. That's not what I would do, but I don't really have an opinion on that. But saying everyone should do the Jefferson curl and not taking in each person's unique configurations, their unique build, their unique injury mechanism, their leverages, and all those things is highly irresponsible. So here's the counter question I would get to that. Well, doesn't McGill say to do the McGill Big Three, without assessing people? And no, that's not the case. Number one, before you're going to make that argument, it's not the same argument, because the Jefferson curl does lead to a lot of compression and flexion. It is naturally more tough on the spine. It creates more force on it, versus something that's relatively low, very low in the bird dog, the side plank, and the curl up on the spine. It's very little stress on the spine, especially compared to something like a Jefferson curl. Hell, a bird dog compared to something like a Superman is very low compared to what a Superman, the amount of compression it puts on the spine. So anyway, I digress. My point is, Dr. McGill does not say blindly everyone should do the McGill Big Three. It's a good way to start if you do have spinal instability or need to build your core up and those different things. But some people, if they're in too much pain and they're doing the McGill Big Three correctly, then they may need to regress and do something else. So when people come to me and they say, I'm doing the McGill method, I'm doing the McGill Big Three, and I'm not getting better. So number one, that's not what the McGill method is. McGill Big Three is just a three-pronged core attack to start rebuilding your core or building a core, depending on what your goal is. Number two, the McGill method is about identifying your cause with a special assessment and building a program that may or may not consist of the McGill Big Three. Building a program to help you become robust and resilient once again. So sometimes we'll use McKenzie's stuff to rebuild someone. Sometimes we'll use, just some random stuff from someone else. It isn't just about only doing the McGill Big Three exercises. And I think that's something that people get tripped up on. So I also get that the knees over toe guy is not only about doing the Jefferson curl, but that is something he suggests for people that have back pain. And I highly disagree with that. Recently, Aaron Horschig of Squat University did a video on the Jefferson curl, and I thought he did it very well, and it explained why it's not good for a lot of people. And he said it very well. If you want to check that out, I think it was on his Instagram page, Squat University. But I don't think that's a good tool for someone, especially if their flexion and compression force is intolerant, to put them in severe compression like that and flexion and expect the back to get better. Now, I understand that some people want to reintroduce flexion and such as it doesn't hurt anymore, and I don't really disagree with that, depending on what the goals are. But if powerlifters are trying to do this to build a resilient spine, remember we keep a locked in and neutral spine for every lift, especially the squat and the deadlift. So a lot of the bending exercises that people do for powerlifting, I don't understand because it doesn't really, the juice isn't worth the squeeze, and you do isometrics to build a resilient core for powerlifting. And strongman's a little bit different. You're going to need to bend and be flexible, be endurable, all those different things. So for strongman, maybe you do some of those. I don't know. But one thing I do know for sure is not everyone should be doing these exercises. And especially if you're a powerlifter or you're a big, strong guy that's trying to be stiff and rigid, man, the analogy that Dr. McGill uses in back mechanic is a brilliant one. So think about a big, strong athlete like a powerlifter or a Highlands game athlete or a strongman. They're more of an oak tree build. They're bigger, they're more rigid. You load them up, they're good to go. But a dancer and a ballerina and a gymnast are more like a willow branch. So they're very, very bendable. And but if you try to load them, then they're not going to be able to sustain any load. So think about it. In a hurricane, an oak tree is going to snap because it's not very good. It's not bendy. It's not made to bend. But a willow branch is going to sway in the wind and be just fine. It's not going to snap. But remember, the willow branch can't bear load, and the oak tree is not going to bend that well. There are exceptions to the rule where people can be bendable and resilient and stiff. I get all that, but that is an outlier. That is an exception to the rule and not the rule. So, to wrap things up here, there is no one-size-fits-all to curing back pain, and when someone tells you that one exercise is going to cure their back pain just by doing it, I would run. At least ask the question how a certain exercise is going to cure your back pain. The way you cure your back pain is to remove the cause and let the pain settle and then rebuild. And if that rebuilding in some ways for you consists of a Jefferson curl, I would like to know why, but then so be it. But you don't want to do that when you have a pain-generating mechanism causing exercise. So for those of you that have a disc bulge or herniated disc, in-plate fractures, bone edema, I would be very, very cautious of doing things that are big-time flexion and compressive forces generating. So again, those are just my thoughts. Now, someone that just wants to get mobile and flex their spine, sure, I really don't have a problem with that, honestly. But that's not something I would prescribe. That's not my wheelhouse of someone that's very flexible and bendy. I get that. The problem is when you tell someone, no matter what their levers are, like, you got to think that the knees over toe guy is a lanky, skinnier, light bone guy. You try to tell someone that's 5'6", 300 pounds to mobilize their back like that, they're going to snap something. So again, it's context specific. It depends on the person. Everything is nuanced. So remember, not everyone should be doing the McGill Big Three, especially if they're wound up in pain and they're doing the exercises correctly. A lot of the time, they're not doing the exercise correctly, and that's what's helping cause their pain, or why they're not getting a benefit, or why they don't feel right. So again, every exercise is a tool. Pick them wisely. Remember, if you can't answer why you're doing something, you're probably wrong for doing it. And so do a little bit more research and be able to answer that why to any exercise that you do. And I implore you, if you have a disc bulge, be careful with doing exercises like this because you might do irreparable damage. You could do potentially irreparable damage when you're being aggressive with this rehab. A lot of the time, the best thing you can do for a grumpy back is let it settle. Don't do anything and just take your time and then slowly start rebuilding. We talk about this in Back Mechanic, My Story and Gift of Injury. The links are below. If you haven't read those books, I highly suggest you do them. I do virtual consults with people to help them with their back pain. I can tell you this, it does not include the reverse hyper or the Jefferson curl. It's a lot of walking, core stabilization, removing the pain causes. We do an assessment. So there you are. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon, all right?
Thank you so much for watching today. Please subscribe, like, and share if you enjoyed this video, and have a wonderful day.